I need you to stay with me for a second, because this isn't one of those dramatic stories you hear online. This is me sitting here still trying to understand how my wedding night turned into something I can't forget. Because when the door opened that night, it wasn't just a person standing there. It was the moment I realized I wasn't alone in my own marriage. Let me start from the beginning so you understand who I am and where my head was at. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and up until that weekend, I genuinely believed my life was steady and predictable in the best possible way. I wasn't chasing chaos. I wasn't ignoring red flags. I thought I had done everything right. Slow relationship, long engagement, shared values, shared routines, shared future. I married my husband, Andrew, on August 27th. It was a Saturday, late summer, warm but breezy, the kind of weather where you don't sweat, but you feel the sun on your skin. Our wedding was at a small coastal hotel in Northern California. Not flashy, not huge, just close family, close friends, simple flowers, neutral colors. Everything felt calm and intentional. Andrew and I had been together for 6 years by then, lived together for almost 3. We met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue, talked for hours that first night, and never really stopped. He worked in supply chain management. I worked as an office administrator for a healthcare group. Our life before marriage was honestly boring to most people, and I loved that. Early mornings, shared calendars, takeout on Fridays, laundry on Sundays, the kind of rhythm you don't question. Here's the thing I didn't see clearly at the time. Andrew's mother was deeply involved in his life. Not aggressive, not cruel, just always there, always checking in, always knowing details before I remembered sharing them. She lived about 15 minutes away and stopped by often, sometimes announced, sometimes not. And I told myself this is just what a close family looks like. I didn't want to be the woman who complains about her mother-in-law for no reason. The wedding day itself went smoothly. She cried during the ceremony, hugged Andrew tightly during photos, made comments about how fast time flies. Nothing alarming, nothing worth fighting over. I remember standing there in my dress thinking, once today is over, we'll finally be in our own bubble. Husband and wife, just us. After the reception, we checked into the hotel room that had been reserved for months, the same hotel as the venue, just a different floor. We were exhausted in that happy, drained way, shoes off immediately, laughing about random moments from the day, how my veil almost fell off, how Andrew forgot his vows halfway through. I changed into something comfortable, not trying to be sexy or impressive, just wanting to breathe and be close to my husband. I remember sitting on the bed while Andrew went to shower, scrolling through messages, seeing congratulations come in, feeling that quiet excitement settle in my chest, that feeling of, okay, this is real now. I didn't realize it then, but that was the last moment that felt completely mine. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you aware of every little sound, the hum of the air conditioner, the faint squeak of the bed frame, the distant noise of city traffic below. Andrew was in the bathroom showering, steam fogging up the mirror, and I sat on the edge of the bed scrolling through photos from the wedding, the way people had captured moments I didn't even notice, me laughing with my friends, Andrew smiling with his parents, the flowers on the tables, and I thought, finally, we're alone. It feels perfect. It feels real, like a safe little bubble of our own. My phone buzzed a couple of times, and it was his mother's name flashing on the screen. I didn't answer, assuming it was about some forgotten detail from the wedding. Maybe she was double-checking a brunch or making sure we had everything packed. It didn't even cross my mind to worry. I just wanted those last few minutes of quiet with Andrew. But I noticed how her calls kept coming, almost rhythmically, like a pulse I couldn't ignore. Andrew came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, hair still wet, a smile on his face that made my stomach do that familiar little flip. We started talking about the day, how funny the dance floor was, how tired we were, the way the cake had been gone before anyone got a second slice. Normal stuff, but even in those normal moments there was a lightness, a sense that we'd finally crossed into being married, not just engaged or planning a wedding, but really married. Here's a detail I didn't think about then, but matters now. When we checked in earlier, his mom insisted on being there to make sure everything went smoothly. The hotel handed Andrew 2 key cards, and she took one saying, "Oh, I'll just hold this in case you lose yours." Everyone laughed about it. I shrugged it off, thought it was sweet, helpful, maybe a little intrusive, but harmless. We were sitting on the bed, close to each other, not doing anything explicit, just enjoying each other's presence, and that's when it happened. The sound of the lock turning, sharp and sudden, a noise that made my heart freeze, the doorknob moving, the door swinging open, and there she was, Andrew's mother, standing in the doorway, holding a small bag and her phone, eyes wide, like she'd just walked into a crime scene, mouth slightly open as if she couldn't believe what she saw. I froze, my chest tightening. Andrew jumped up, almost knocking the lamp over, his voice sharp and angry. "Mom, what are you doing?" And she immediately covered her mouth, stammering, "Oh my God, I didn't know. I was just bringing the emergency kit. I thought you might need it. I didn't mean to intrude. I just—" Emergency kit on our wedding night, in a locked hotel room, the door wide open, my heart pounding like a drum I couldn't stop, Andrew's eyes wide, full of shock, confusion, and panic, his hands slightly shaking, the warmth of the shower not yet dissipated, and I sat on the bed instinctively pulling the blanket up, not because I felt ashamed, but because I was utterly exposed, completely unprepared for this intrusion. She didn't leave immediately, which made it worse. She lingered, talking, apologizing, explaining, saying she didn't mean to intrude, that she just wanted to help, that she felt so embarrassed, so awkward, so uncomfortable for having walked in, while I sat there frozen, hearing her explain how this was traumatic for her and feeling my stomach drop, because it wasn't her trauma I was worried about. It was our privacy, our first night as married couple, our boundary that had just been completely shattered. Andrew kept saying, "Mom, please leave," the tension thick in the room, his voice low but urgent. She nodded, tears forming, apologizing again, mumbling about how upset she felt, how hurt she was to intrude, while I tried not to hyperventilate, sitting on the bed wondering how someone could turn a locked door into a reason to feel victimized. When she finally left, closing the door slowly behind her, Andrew immediately checked the lock, then both latches, breathing heavily, muttering, "I can't believe she did that," and the room felt heavy, cold, awkward, like the night itself had shifted, the atmosphere had changed, our quiet intimacy broken into pieces, the safe space that we thought we had suddenly invaded, gone. I remember sitting back on the bed, staring at the carpet, hands still gripping the blanket, thinking, did that really just happen? Was I overreacting? Maybe being too sensitive. Maybe I should have smiled, laughed it off, accepted her as part of our lives. But every time I tried to do that, a new incident reminded me that this wasn't just personality. This was boundary crossing. This was intrusion disguised as care. And it was slowly suffocating me. The quiet psychological pressure of tiptoeing through my own home. And even as we lay down, back to back, pretending to sleep, my mind replayed the door opening, her eyes, the words emergency kit, all of it over and over, embedding itself like a shadow over what should have been a peaceful first night. The next morning, we were supposed to have breakfast with both families. The plan was simple. A quiet hotel restaurant, toast, eggs, coffee, maybe a few laughs about the previous day. Nothing dramatic, or so I thought, but the moment we arrived, I could feel it. The way her mother moved, the way she looked at me, fragile, sad, like she had been wronged, and I instantly felt a pit in my stomach because I knew the narrative had already shifted in her mind. She sat down across from me, took a deep breath, and said softly but firmly, "I hope you know how upsetting last night was for me. I would never intentionally disrespect you, but walking into that, it was traumatic for a mother." And I froze, my fork hovering mid-hair, my chest tightening, the stomach nodding, because traumatic for her? Not for us, for our privacy, for the violation we had just experienced, but somehow I was suddenly the villain that took that practically grabbed the situation and twisted it into a story of her experiencing trauma. By framing my anger, my right to privacy and peace, as something that had negatively impacted her and her feelings. Andrew opened his mouth to speak, tried to interject, but she kept talking, leaning slightly forward, her hands pressed together, her voice trembling, saying she felt unwelcome, that maybe I didn't want her around, that perhaps I had started pushing her out of her son's life, and everyone around the table, my family included,